90 seconds for their opening and closing statements and 30 seconds for their rebuttals. Our CNN Philippines senior anchor and correspondent Ruth Cabal will be moderating the vice presidential debate.
Government accountability at saka domestic policy at kung paano ang papapalakad sa domestic affairs natin.
The COMELEC hopes candidates who skip debates will change their mind and attend the rest of the scheduled debates.
Patuloy ang aming panawagan doon sa mga gusto pang sumama, yung mga hindi nakasama, at siguro naman nakita naman ng sa mga susunod pa, nakita nila yung maayos na debate, nakita nila yung maayos na mga katanungan. Hindi na kami ang para mag-insist para sa kanila, kung hindi siguro baka naman pwede mapag-usapan ng kampo nila na magandang mag-participate pala sa COMELEC debate na ito. Dahil sinisigurado naman namin na ang COMELEC debate is always neutral, impartial, and the only purpose is to give to our people the best of what a candidate is to offer.
Thank you.
The COMELEC urges the public to finish the series of debates in order to make sure that their candidates will not flip-flop on their stand on various issues. Meantime, fact-checking will also be conducted throughout the program in order to avoid candidates misleading the voters. Back to you, Ria.
Tristan, what do we know about how the candidates prepared for this debate?
Ria, based from what we know is that they were briefed on certain issues. They were briefed by the COMELEC hours before or minutes before the debate, before the program. So we saw some pictures and videos of COMELEC officials like COMELEC spokesperson James Jimenez conducting the briefing for the vice presidential candidates. And they were told about the general topics that will be discussed, but the questions were not given in advance. So it's pretty much the same with our CNN Philippines vice presidential debate. They were given about some general topics, including domestic policy and then other issues that would matter to the voters as they seek the second top post. Back to you, Ria.
Thanks a lot for that, Tristan. That was Tristan Odalo reporting to us live from Sofitel Philippine Hotel in Pasay City. 2 senators, 2 congressmen, and a presidential daughter are among 9 aspiring to be second in command for the next 6 years. Here are the 9 vice presidential candidates for the May 9 polls.
All but one of the vice presidential hopefuls have a running mate. Buhay Party List Representative Lito Atienza is Senator Manny Pacquiao's partner. Besides his usual floral tops, he is known for conservative religious views and legacy as a former Manila mayor. Former Akbayan Party List Congressman Walden Bello teams up with Leody de Guzman. Once a Liberal Party ally, the sociology professor will push for green and pro-human rights policies. After losing in 2 senatorial runs and a rejected presidential bid, Rizalito David is back on the ballot as vice president to his party standard-bearer Jose Montemayor. In 2016, he filed a disqualification case against Senator Grace Poe over her citizenship. Davao City Mayor and lawyer Sara Duterte was a runaway frontrunner in early presidential pre-election surveys, only to end up in the vice presidential race through last-minute substitution. PDP Laban, her father President Rodrigo Duterte's party, wanted her on board, but Inday Sara chose Lakas CMD instead, with Bongbong Marcos as tandem. Economist Manny Lopez is the only candidate without a running mate. He founded the group Christian Peace Alliance that opposed the law that created the Bangsamoro region. Willie Ong is giving national politics a second try after a failed Senate bid. As partner of Manila Mayor Esco Moreno's campaign, the cardiologist and YouTube vlogger is banking on his medical background to respond to the pandemic. Senator Francis Kiko Pangilinan planned a re-election bid until a sudden decision to run with Vice President Leni Robredo. The lawyer and husband of megastar Sharon Cuneta remains with the Liberal Party even though Robredo is an independent candidate. Lawyer Carlos Serapio is running with presidential bet Faisal Mangundato. He draws experience as a former consultant for the staff of the late former President Noynoy Aquino. Senate President Vicente Tito Soto looks to rise from the 3rd to the 2nd highest post of the land. Together with fellow Senator Ping Lacson, the noontime TV host counts on decades of experience in politics and legislation. One of these vice presidential hopefuls will stand in as president-in-waiting by June 30th. Melissa Lopez, CNN Philippines.
We are joined tonight by a panel of experts. We have political analyst Michael Yusingco and Assistant Professor Reginald Ugaddan of UP National College of Public Administration and Governance. Both of them will be joining us live via Zoom. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Let's get right to it. Reginald, maybe we can start with you. We know that debates play a key role in our election process. They are a very potentially powerful platform. How important are debates for both the candidates and the voters?
It's really, really important for us to have these debates, for us to, to gauge or even understand what these candidates are, what is their stand to different issues in the Philippines. And it's really important for us to really test as well our candidates on how to respond to these different issues, because questions like, or critical questions on social issues or any or economic or political issues in the country, like, for example, this debate for vice president will give us a clear understanding on the clear stand of these candidates. Much more that we are in a pandemic, although of course these politicians have been going out, doing some rallies in different places in different countries, we still have some people, those who are in the peripheries or those in the countryside, that needs to hear or to understand the stand of these candidates. So participation in debate is very important and crucial for an election like this.
All right, Michael, maybe now we'll ask this question to both of you, but Michael, let's start with you. Based on the latest survey results of Pulse Asia Research, Mayor Sara Duterte is still the Filipino people's top choice for the next vice president. But as we know, she's been refusing to attend debates. She said that's actually her campaign policy, to not attend debates. How will this, if at all, affect her votes during the elections? And do you think debates are something that can change survey results?
Good evening, Ria. Well, there's a lot of things to unpack in what you asked. No? So first, let me tackle her absence in the debates. Would that affect her standing in the surveys? We don't know. That's really the best answer I can give. Filipino voters rely on the debates as part of their decision-making process when they make that decision on election day. So we do not know if the next time they encounter a survey, would the absence of Mayor Sara in the debates affect that or change their minds. So we do not know that. But definitely, going back to your earlier point about the importance of debates, debates are very important for the voters because the campaign itself is supposed to be, to help voters in their decision-making process. And part of the campaign, particularly this COMELEC organized debate, is exactly that, to help us voters in our decision-making process when we make that decision on election day come May. So her absence is definitely an anomaly in this political campaign period. And needless to say, even the absence of her principal is really a profound anomaly. So whether that will really change the minds of the respondents of surveys, my best answer that I can give is I don't know, but definitely the absence might impact the way voters make their decision on election day.
Right. Okay. We have lots more to talk about. You are watching a CNN Philippines special presentation. What should the voter look for in a vice presidential candidate? We find out when we return. the 9 candidates in this year's polls. We still have with us our panel of experts. And for now, I'd like to go to Reginald Ugaddan. Sticking to the topic of surveys, which we were talking about before the break, how should voters view the numbers in the survey results? And what should really help them decide eventually on election day whose name to shade on their ballot?
Yeah, Ria, our people should understand that this survey is just a snapshot of, of the perception or maybe the preference of our voters. That's a voter's preference, right? And it's given in the snapshot, and that's not really permanent. And things may change. This is just giving on the preference of the people. What the people should really need to look at now is that on the qualities of these candidates. We have to really look at, or we have to educate ourselves on what might be the future of the Philippines if we have this kind of president. Right? We have to really anticipate as well. Anticipating of the future of our country, right? Or maybe after 6 years or after the term, or you may think of possible scenarios, right, of what might the Philippine economy or politics or the society would look like if we have a Leni Robredo president, or we have a Bongbong Marcos president, or we have a Lodi presidency. So we have to think about that. We have to think about the future of our people, or the future of our children, or even our country, right? And telling this or saying this is that we have to look at the qualities of our leader. Are they really prepared to deal with the complexities of our environment? When I say complexities of what's happening now, the big surprise that face the whole world, the pandemic. How might the future president, or how might the president to be elected this coming May, would plan, or what is his or her exit plan for COVID-19, right? And what is the exit plan to this, billions or trillions of debt of the country, right? So things like this have to be, that we should not be swayed by this survey. These are just snapshots. Maybe it may be scientifically done, or of course most of the surveys might have this or issues on reliability and validity that may possibly it may not be that true, right? It may not be that reliable or valid data or sample considered in the survey. But what I'm telling is that it's just a snapshot.
Right, they're
At the end
sampling
of the
like
day,
2,500
be making the
people
decision.
when we have about
That's
67
my take on
million
that, Ria.
voters, right? As you said, it is a snapshot, and the only survey that really counts is the May 9 survey, so to speak. Okay, Michael, I'd like to go to you now. What issues do you think should be discussed in this evening's debate?
So, Ria, I saw earlier in before the start of your show that the COMELEC prepared questions around domestic policy and also urgent issues. No, so I respectfully disagree with that. I would have hoped that the questions revolved around more on foreign policy, more on how we can improve our international relations, particularly our relations with ASEAN and ASEAN +3. And the reason why I put emphasis on foreign policy, we have to remember that the vice president basically should qualify as president, no? Qualify, quote unquote, no? Because the vice president is next in line in the order of succession. So that person who will be elected should actually possess the same qualities of the person we will elect as president. So there should be no distinction in terms of capability, of track record, and so forth. So I would have preferred that the COMELEC would ask more questions on foreign policy, precisely because these types of questions will tell us voters whether the candidate is indeed ready to become president in case the president becomes incapacitated or whatever. So if the questions will revolve around domestic policy, I would expect the same answers as what transpired yesterday, because the questions also revolved on more on domestic policy. So we might see duplication of answers, which I would understand because these are tandems, so they must have prepared the same way, or they must have been prepared by the same briefed or prepared by the same persons. So I would have preferred more questions on foreign policy than domestic policy.
All right. So, are debates helpful in choosing a candidate? We'll tell you what some netizens think 50 days before the Filipino votes. Do stay with us here on CNN Philippines. This is a CNN Philippines special presentation. We're just a few moments away from PiliPinas Debates 2022. This is the first, or the COMELEC's first, vice presidential debate. So let's go back to our discussion. Reginald, maybe we can ask this of you. What do Filipinos expect from the candidates? We know that elections are extremely colorful. They're very personality-based. But what do the voters expect?
The expectation really is on how these candidates could address issues, of course, social issues, or what are the issues that can help them, of course, to alleviate from this poverty. I think that's most one of the serious consideration of our candidates. Of our people, right, in choosing their candidates, they're looking for them first as their hope to alleviate or to bring them out of the challenges of the poverty. That's why maybe most of our people they're looking or trying to understand these candidates. What are their platforms, specific platforms, if there are any, right? On how these platforms could possibly bring them out to poverty. I think that's the most important consideration there. Yeah.
Right. Now, for Michael, you already mentioned earlier that you weren't so satisfied with the COMELEC's choices of topics for tonight, which were government accountability and I think most urgent domestic affairs. For you, what are the most pressing issues right now, especially from the voter standpoint?
From the voter standpoint, I don't think there's any dispute that the most urgent issue, of course, is jobs, employment, the economy. These are the what we call the gut issues. No? So these are the issues that directly relate to putting food on the table, surviving the next month. So these are the issues that there's no dispute at all that's very relevant for voters. So that should be asked as well, obviously. But in this debate, we're trying to look at the candidates as a potential president. So I would have hoped that the questions would help facilitate that, right? Help us voters to see that in the candidates. But the most important issues, I would say, are the gut issues, the one that really affect our voters.
Yeah, that's right. We'll see what happens actually in this evening's debate. So thank you very much, political analyst Michael Yusingco and Reginald Ugaddan, assistant professor of UP National College of Public Administration and Governance, for joining us live in our CNN Philippines special presentation. And we ask you, our viewers, will debates help change your vote on Election Day? And here are your answers. A resounding yes from this netizen on Twitter who believes a candidate's winning point should be their plans for the country. Facebook user G. Pedrosa shares a sentiment saying debates are helpful, particularly for voters who are still undecided. While this netizen is firm, debates will no longer change her decision. For Marivic Librino, researching about the candidates is enough. And it's the same answer for Instagram user Jimmy the Jimmy, who thinks debates are, quote, all for show. Netizen Felix Lugaygay also believes debates are just a grandstanding of candidates that do not really show their actual platforms. But this Twitter user points out debates are not just about platforms. They give the Filipino voter a glimpse of how a candidate will make decisions and address the concerns of the public when elected. And in just a few minutes, our vice presidential candidates will bear their plans and weigh in on some of today's most pressing issues. 7 out of 9 of our hopefuls are facing off in PiliPinas Debates 2022, The Turning Point, the first of 2 vice presidential debates organized by the Commission on Elections. Remember, your vote matters, so choose wisely. I'm Ria Trillo.